New Halo games don't come around all that often. As Microsoft's flagship series, each entry is meant to stand the test of time and present a definitive reason why you have to buy the latest Xbox console. With little variation, the series has succeeded in this task, presenting fantastic first-person shooter action with an interesting story layered on top. With Halo 5 Guardians, Microsoft and 343 Industries look to repeat this success on the Xbox One, and giving players all the classic fun of the series, while changing the formula enough to still feel fresh. Thanks to excellent design decisions both in adding and removing things, they largely succeed, making Halo 5 Guardians a definite must-own game for anyone with an Xbox One. With any generational leap, the first question on everyone's mind is, how have the visuals improved? Halo 5 Guardians makes the leap to the Xbox One with an emphasis on performance over raw visual power. The resolution won't hit 1080p, and textures and effects might not be on the bleeding edge, but the frame rate will hold at a steady 60 frames per second, making for a very responsive experience. The end result is a great visual experience all the way around. While it might not hold up as the best graphics in gaming, it will certainly satisfy throughout both the multiplayer and campaign. Picking up sometime after the extremely depressing events of the previous game, Halo 5 Guardians campaign sees humanity reclaiming their lost sections of the galaxy. The war with the Covenant is over, with only a few remnants left causing trouble. However, things start looking bad once more when outer colonies begin getting decimated by an unknown force. Guardians, massive Forerunner-built machines, are awakening across the galaxy, and apparently, Cortana is somehow linked to it. Master Chief, along with his team of Spartans, defy orders, setting out to find his friends and figure out what is going on. Now an enemy of the UNSC, Spartan Locke and Fireteam Osiris are dispatched to bring the Chief home. However, both teams will find that there's much more going on here than they originally thought. The Halo series has always been a bit unique in the shooter genre, featuring a fun campaign that actually has an interesting narrative attached. The single-player portion of Halo games is usually worth the price of admission just by itself. Halo 5 Guardians still easily hits this lofty expectation, featuring extremely well-designed combat and missions, but the story has a few problems holding it back. As we've come to expect from Halo games, this story serves mostly as a lead-up to future games, as things are not quite resolved by the time the credits roll. Worsening this feeling is just how much time players will spend far away from the central narrative. There's always something to distract Fireteam Osiris from getting to the Chief, with the feeling being that the game is biding its time for a big payoff at the end. That payoff never really materializes though, instead punting the ball down the field to be picked back up later. Still, these issues are only on the narrative side of the equation, which for most will be the much lesser concern in the campaign. Mission structure and gameplay design is far more important, and it is here where 343 shows their prowess when it comes to the Halo series. The large-scale combat of the series is firmly back, most likely thanks to the power of the Xbox One. And of course, there's still a vast array of vehicles you can take into battle, most of which have remained largely untouched, which was a wise move since they needed a very little modification to begin with. For a Halo veteran, it's all familiar territory. But it's territory that they almost certainly want to revisit, and can do so via the online cooperative campaign. Some of the biggest changes to the formula are the weapon and enemy alterations that 343 has implemented here. Extremely few new weapons show up in Halo 5 compared to the previous game, but almost all of them have been retouched in one way or another. The Forerunner weapons that used to be easily avoidable might become many players' favorites this time around, and a few Covenant standards have been tweaked as well. All of these changes create the most balanced gunplay that the series has seen in a long time, and offers more variety to players than the usual battle rifle assault rifle combo. 343 has also introduced a new Smart Link system, which is essentially a Halo version of other shooters aimed down sights. This feature has always been feared by the fanbase, as it didn't seem to fit within the established Halo universe. However, the developer has seemingly pulled it off, keeping the traditional hipfire mechanics the same, but adding a little bit of extra power when using Smart Link. If you want to run around popping headshots off from the hip, you still can, but for that extra precision shot, you can pull up Smart Link and get just a bit of a boost. And you still have to be aware of your surroundings, because getting hit will pop you right out of the sights. These new shooting mechanics aren't the only thing that's been changed in Halo 5 Guardians. Enemies have been retooled quite a bit as well, with the Bullet Sponge Knights being a little more fun to fight this time around. Knights feel more like hunters have previously, offering a challenge to players that take tactics and accurate shots. Not all enemy changes have been perfect though. The Warden Eternal boss returns for Halo 5 and will show up in multiple spots of the campaign. It's pretty easy to see why the Halo series never relied on boss battles, as they feel neither fun nor challenging. While this boss's appearances are brief, they can certainly break the flow of the action. But even with these boss battles, all of it adds up to one of the best designed Halo campaigns in the entire series. While the story might not hold up to past expectations, it does set up a very interesting conflict that will run throughout the next game, or two.
What did this?
Of course, the campaign isn't all there is to Halo, with multiplayer likely being an even more important element for many fans. Here, Halo 5 Guardians could have easily stumbled, as Halo 4 did in some ways, but 343 once again listened to the fanbase and has created two types of multiplayer with Arena and Warzone. Arena dials back certain elements that didn't fit with the series while adding in very small touches that do. The end result is a new take on the Halo multiplayer formula that should perform the miraculous task of pleasing old fans and new. The big element that 343 worked on for Halo 5 was movement. Players now have access to a few moves that keep the action flowing, such as dash and clamber, with sprint still offered as a default. As long as it's charged up, you can hit a button to do a quick dash in any direction, allowing you to get somewhere faster or dash out of the way of a grenade. Managing the recharge will separate the pros from more casual players, giving the former an advantage as they dash out of the way of incoming fire. Movement in Halo 5 has been refined to make you truly feel like a Spartan, letting you run and dash around the map, climb up on ledges, and drop down on unsuspecting enemies with ease. The flow of the battle is always retained thanks to these and some other additions to the mechanics. These movement changes would have been worthless without well-designed maps, and while Halo 5 doesn't have as wide of a variety as one might wish for, the included maps are good enough to keep players interested until the free DLC hits. The aforementioned weapon changes also carry over into multiplayer, bringing the variety and balance that was present in the campaign. Loadouts and random weapon spawns are gone, having been replaced by pre-announced spawn locations and times. 343 took the elements that made classic Halo so great, namely map and weapon control, and fine-tuned them to perfection, even adding in UI and audio elements that pro players used to use so effectively. Along with this, they added AI callouts, making it so your teammates will let you know of enemy locations, even when the human controlling them does not.
Halfway to victory.
VR base secured.
For those that need something to unlock to keep their interest, Halo 5 Guardians has you very well covered. Rec packs are the way you'll get new weapon skins, armor, and other cosmetic items. Simply by playing the game, you'll earn points that can be used to buy additional packs, or just get the ones you earn through commendations or ranks. You can also buy them through microtransactions, but most players will just earn plenty of them by playing the game. Opening these packs is a lot of fun as you get to sift through the new items you've unlocked. For Arena, these are all cosmetic, not impacting the balance of the game in any way. Arena multiplayer in Halo 5 Guardians is easily one of the best in the series, and will likely be considered a favorite among shooter fans in general. But for those that want a totally new experience, 343 threw in their own take on the Halo formula. Warzone is what 343 envisions the future of Halo to be, and while it doesn't fully justify this opinion, it does seem to offer a fun and unique take on the franchise. Working almost like a MOBA-esque version of the series' classic multiplayer, players will have to control capture points, call in weapons and vehicles, and take out AI enemies in order to earn points. If your team owns 2 of the 3 capture spots, they'll slowly earn said points and have more spawn locations. If they own all 3, the enemy's core will become vulnerable, allowing an instant win if your team can rally together long enough for the assault. These massive 24-player matches offer something very unique compared to Halo of the past, but it's not necessarily one that most players will thoroughly enjoy. Getting 12 players to actually work together is a tough task, and with the multitude of objectives that your team can focus on at any one time, it becomes almost impossible to manage. Large teams of players who communicate effectively will easily demolish their foe. It also doesn't help that there's no real tutorial for how the whole thing works, forcing players to dive right in and learn through attrition. The future of Warzone will largely depend on how the community takes to it, but as it stands now, it appears to be an interesting distraction that players will only come back to when they need a break from the excellent arena multiplayer. Now, there are other issues that could pop up, namely in the rec packs that work pretty well with arena. These also unlock weapons, vehicles, and power-ups within Warzone. Here is where the dreaded pay-to-win effect of microtransactions could become a problem, as those with more rec packs open will have many more options in combat. Calling in a tank or banshee can easily sway the tide of battle, and these can be purchased by buying up extra rec packs for real-world cash. So here's the verdict on Halo 5. Any worry that Halo might be in the wrong hands with 343 Industries has been wiped out by Halo 5 Guardians. The campaign might have some story issues, with Halo 6 promising to really deliver the goods, but the design is impeccable and will certainly warrant multiple playthroughs. Warzone offers a new way to play, but not necessarily one that many will come back to over and over again. Once you crack its intricacies, you might find it fascinating, but it likely won't be the majority's favorite. Arena multiplayer, though, is one of the biggest and best of the entire series, offering a classic experience with just enough new elements to make it work out in the modern shooter era. Taking what works, removing what didn't, and refining nearly every aspect of the experience, Halo 5 Guardians is an immediate classic that is worthy of the name Halo.